The contract appeared on Miran Salwe's tablet while she was eating lunch alone in her ship. Urgent. High payment. Agricultural station in the outer sectors. Scrid infestation. She read the details twice and felt her stomach turn. Not because of the job itself. She had done hundreds of these. But because scrid infestations meant only one thing. Complete extermination. No exceptions. Miran was 34 years old and had worked for Galactic Pest Control for 11 years. She was good at her job. Too good, some said. She could clear a station in half the time other teams needed. But lately, something had changed inside her. She did not know what to call it. Maybe doubt. Maybe exhaustion. Maybe something worse. She accepted the contract anyway. Bills needed paying. The station was called Crescentfall. It served 12 colony worlds with food and supplies. The Lority Collective ran it. Insectoid species. Very clean. Very organized. Very disgusted by anything they considered dirty or inferior. When Miran's ship docked, a Lority administrator was waiting. His name was High Cultivator Osith. He stood nearly 2 meters tall with clicking mandibles and compound eyes that showed no warmth. "You are the human exterminator," he said. Not a question. Miran Salwe. Galactic Pest Control. The infestation is in Bay 17. Lower hydroponics section. The scrid have been breeding there for 3 cycles. They have destroyed 40% of our crop output. Miran nodded. She had heard this story before. Different stations. Different species running them. Same problem. Scrid got everywhere. They ate everything. They bred fast and died fast, and bred again faster. "My team will assess the situation first," she said. Standard protocol. Osith's mandibles clicked with irritation. "There is nothing to assess. Seal the bay. Deploy neurotoxin. Incinerate the remains. We want this done quickly. I understand, but I still need to look." Her team was small. 2 Lority technicians assigned by Osith to monitor her work. 1 Fenari scanner specialist named Doss who had worked with Miran for 3 years. Doss was short and covered in soft gray fur with large ears that could hear a whisper from 50 meters away. "Bad one," Doss said quietly as they suited up. "I can hear them through the walls already. Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands." Miran sealed her helmet. "Let us see what we are dealing with." Bay 17 was a nightmare. The hydroponic systems were destroyed. Grow beds torn apart. Nutrient tubes chewed through. Water recyclers clogged with debris. And everywhere, covering every surface, were scrid, small creatures. 6 legs. Hard shells that ranged from brown to black. Large eyes that reflected Miran's helmet light. They scattered when she walked, but did not flee far. Just watched. Waiting. The Lority technicians stayed near the entrance, their disgust obvious. "Filthy creatures," one muttered. "They ruin everything they touch." Miran did not respond. She walked deeper into the bay, scanner in hand, documenting everything. This was her job. Find the nest. Map the infestation. Calculate the gas volume needed. Simple. But nothing about this felt simple anymore. She reached a section where the scrid were thicker. They covered the walls in layers. The sound of their movement was like rain on metal. Click, click, click. Thousands of tiny legs. "Miran," Doss said over the comm, "you are going too deep. Contamination risk increases beyond this point. Just a little further." She did not know why she kept walking. Something pulled her forward. Maybe curiosity. Maybe something else. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. He had been a miner on a colony world where life was hard and resources were few. He kept animals that other colonists wanted killed. Rats. Insects. Things people called pests. "Everything alive wants to keep living," he used to say. "That is not a crime." Her father died when she was 16. Mining accident. She became an exterminator 2 years later. The irony was not lost on her. She found a collapsed storage unit deep in the bay. Around it, dead scrid were piled. Adults. Larger than the others. Their bodies were torn and broken. They had been fighting something. Miran crouched down and looked closer. Scorch marks on the floor. Metal fragments. A maintenance drone lay destroyed nearby. Its cutting tools still extended. The drone had gone rogue. It happened sometimes on older stations. And these scrid had fought it. Died fighting it. Why? She pulled aside a piece of debris and found her answer: a nest. Hidden inside the storage unit. 11 tiny scrid, barely hatched, eyes still sealed shut. And standing over them, one juvenile, larger than its siblings. Its shell showed faint patterns of color that the adults lacked. The juvenile saw Mirren and froze. It did not run, did not attack. It stood between her and the babies, trembling but not moving, protecting them. Mirren stared at the small creature. It stared back. Then it made a sound, high-pitched, wavering, almost like crying. Mirren. Doss's voice was tense. The Lority have authorized immediate extermination. They want you to begin the purge now. She did not answer. The juvenile scrit took one small step toward her. Its antennae twitched. It chirped again, softer this time. In her translator's static, something almost formed. Not quite words, but close. Please. Mirren's hand hovered over her comm switch. Protocol was clear. Orders were clear. Her job was clear, but her father's voice was clearer. Doss, she said slowly. Tell them I need more time. Documentation purposes. Mirren, what are you doing? She looked at the juvenile scrit. It had stopped trembling. Its dark eyes held something she had never seen in vermin before. Hope. I do not know yet, she whispered. But I am about to find out. The juvenile scrit did not move as Mirren reached up and unsealed her helmet. The hiss of releasing pressure echoed through the ruined bay. Mirren. Doss's voice crackled with alarm. What are you doing? The contamination levels are breathable. She pulled the helmet off and set it aside. The air was thick and foul, heavy with decay and strange chemical scents. Scrit pheromones. She had smelled them before through filtered systems. This was different. Raw. Alive. The juvenile watched her with those dark eyes. It had stopped making the crying sound. Now it simply waited, standing guard over its 11 siblings who squirmed blindly in the nest behind it. Mirren crouched down slowly. She made herself small, less threatening. This was not protocol. There was no protocol for this. She was making it up as she went. Hey there, she said softly. I am not going to hurt you. The creature's antennae twitched, processing her voice, her scent, everything about her that was alien and strange and should be terrifying. It did not run. Mirren had seen Scrit flee from shadows, from sounds, from anything that moved. They were prey animals in most ecosystems. Running was their first and only defense. But this one stood its ground like a soldier protecting a fortress. She extended her gloved hand, palm up, and waited. The juvenile took one step forward, then another. Its 6 legs moved carefully across the debris. It reached her hand and stopped. One thin appendage rose and touched her glove. Gentle, testing. Then it made a sound. Her translator buzzed with static. The sound was too complex for the basic software. But underneath the noise, she caught fragments. Not words exactly. Patterns. Meaning trying to form. Distress. Fear. But also question. Query. Who are you? I am Mirren. She whispered back, knowing the creature could not understand, but saying it anyway. And I think you are a lot smarter than anyone knows. Mirren. Doss again. High Cultivator Osith is demanding a progress report. He says if you do not begin the purge in 10 minutes, he will send his own team. She looked at the nest. 11 babies. Blind and helpless. And this one juvenile who had watched its parents die, fighting to protect them. Who was still fighting in its own small way. Still hoping. What kind of vermin hoped? Tell him I found something, she said. Tell him I need samples for study. Standard research protocol. There is no standard research protocol for Scrit. They are Category 7 vermin. Exterminate on site. Then I am creating one. She pulled a collection container from her belt. It was meant for biological samples. Tissue. Fluids. Not living creatures. But it was big enough. The juvenile Scrit watched as she gently lifted its siblings from the nest one by one. They chirped weakly. Tiny sounds of confusion and cold. She placed them in the container with some of the nesting material for warmth. 10. 11. All secure. She turned to the juvenile. Your turn. It did not move toward the container. Instead, it climbed up her arm in quick, careful movements and settled on her shoulder. Its weight was barely noticeable. Its claws gripped her suit fabric without tearing it. Then it chirped once, directly beside her ear. This time the translator caught it clearly. One simple pattern. One unmistakable meaning. Stay. Mirren felt something crack inside her chest. Not pain. Something older. Something she had buried when her father died, and she chose a job that required her to kill things for money. Okay, she said. You can stay, but I need to call you something. She thought for a moment. The creature's chirps had been small and quick, like water dripping. Pip. I am going to call you Pip. Pip chirped what might have been agreement. She walked back toward the bay entrance, container in one hand, Pip on her shoulder. The Lority technicians stared at her with obvious horror. "What is that creature doing on your body?" one demanded. "Remove it immediately. Research specimen. Do not touch it. This is unacceptable. High Cultivator Osith will hear of this. I am sure he will." Doss met her at the airlock, his large ears flattened with anxiety. He looked at Pip. Pip looked back. Neither seemed pleased. "Mirren, this is insane. You cannot just take them. Watch me. The Lority will file complaints. You will lose your license, your pension, everything." She looked down at the container where 11 baby Skrit huddled together for warmth. Then she looked at Pip, who had not left her shoulder since climbing up. "I know." The purge began an hour later. Mirren watched from her ship as neurotoxin gas flooded Bay 17. On the external cameras, she could see the Skrit dying. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. They fled toward exits that were sealed. They piled against walls that would not open. They died in waves, their small bodies twitching and then going still. Pip watched too. Mirren felt the small creature trembling against her neck, felt its claws tighten on her suit. "I am sorry," she said. "I could not save them all. I could only save you." Pip made a sound. Low. Mournful. The translator gave no reading. Some things did not need translation. When it was over, Osith's face appeared on her comm screen. His compound eyes held something she had never seen in a Lority before. Suspicion. "Human. We know what you took from that bay. 12 specimens. We want them returned." Mirren's hand moved to the comm switch. "Signal is breaking up. Cannot hear you clearly. Do not play games with me. Those creatures are property of the Lority Collective. You have committed theft. They are research samples, legally acquired under Galactic Pest Control Protocol 7, Section 14. Biological study exemption. There is no such protocol. Then I guess you should check your records more carefully." Saw way out. She cut the transmission and began undocking procedures. Her ship pulled away from Crescent Fall Station, away from the mass grave of Bay 17, away from everything she had known for 11 years. Pip chirped softly, in the cargo hold. 10 baby Skrit began to sing. 3 months passed like water through open fingers. Mirren woke to pressure on her chest and opened her eyes to find Pip sitting there, carefully grooming her hair with his front appendages. He had grown since Crescent Fall, tripled in size. His shell now showed patterns of deep blue and silver that caught the morning light through her bedroom window. "Good morning to you too," she muttered. Pip chirped brightly. The translator on her nightstand, upgraded significantly since those early days, rendered his sounds clearly. "Morning. Food. Hungry. Play." She smiled despite herself. Food first, then play. Her farmhouse on Greenvale was small but sturdy. 2 bedrooms. A kitchen that always smelled like something was burning. A porch that looked out over fields of grain that stretched to the horizon. Nothing fancy. Nothing expensive. It was all she could afford after Galactic Pest Control terminated her contract and seized her pension. The official reason was protocol violation. The unofficial reason was that she made powerful people look foolish. The Lority Collective had influence. They made sure everyone knew what Mirren Solway had done, what she had become: vermin lover, pest keeper, crazy human. She did not care anymore. In the converted barn behind her house, the other Skrit were waking. 10 of them had survived the journey and the difficult first weeks. One had been too weak and died despite everything Mirren tried. She buried that one under a tree, and Pip had stayed by the small grave for 3 days. Now there were 11 Skrit on her farm, including Pip. Each had grown unique. Each had developed its own personality and patterns. She had named them all. Had white spots on her shell. Whisper made sounds so soft that even the translator struggled to catch them. Tumble never walked when rolling was an option. Bright had patterns that glowed faintly in darkness. The others were Click, Shadow, Bean, Moss, River, and Tiny, who was ironically the largest of the siblings. They greeted Mirren with a chorus of chirps as she entered the barn. "Morning. Mother. Food. Morning. Mother. Mother." They had started calling her that 2 months ago. Pip first, then the others. The translator had rendered it clearly. No mistake. No alternative meaning. "Mother," Mirren had cried that night. Alone in her kitchen, she was not sure if the tears were happy or sad. Maybe both. She fed them their breakfast. Nutrient paste mixed with vegetables from her garden. They had learned not to eat her crops. Pip had taught them. He taught them everything. How to behave. What was safe. What made their human mother happy, and what made her sad. The Skrit were not just surviving on Greenvale. They were adapting, learning, becoming something new. Mirren was documenting everything, recording their behaviors, their communications, their problem-solving abilities. She had submitted 3 research papers to xenobiology journals. All rejected. Skrit were vermin. Everyone knew that. No one wanted to read about vermin being smart. Their loss, she told Pip as she cleaned the feeding station. One day they will understand. Pip chirped agreement. Then his antennae went rigid, pointing toward the farmhouse. Strangers. Warning. Strangers coming. Mirren looked up as a ground vehicle approached her property. Her neighbor Ruth's truck. But Ruth was not driving. 2 figures in official uniforms sat in the front. Her stomach tightened. The truck stopped, and the officers climbed out. One human, one Fenari. Both wore the badges of Greenvale Colonial Authority. Miss Solway, the human officer said. I am Deputy Collins. This is Officer Pell. We need to talk about your animals. They are not causing any problems. We have received complaints. Multiple complaints. Your neighbors are concerned. Mirren looked past them toward the neighboring farms. She knew who had complained. The Morrison family 2 kilometers east. They had lost relatives in a Skrit infestation 20 years ago. They made their feelings very clear when they learned what Mirren was keeping. The Skrit stay on my property. They do not bother anyone. Ma'am, they are classified as Category 7 vermin. You are not legally permitted to keep them. There is no specific law against keeping Skrit on private property on Greenvale. I checked. The Fenari officer, Pell, spoke up. His voice was softer than Collins. Miss Solway, we are not here to arrest you, but we need to give you formal warning. If your animals cause any damage, any harm, you will be held responsible. And pressure is building to change those laws you mentioned. Mirren's hands curled into fists at her sides. Pip pressed closer against her leg, sensing her anger. They will not cause harm. They are gentle. They are smart. Smarter than people think. Collins sighed. Ma'am, they are bugs. I do not know what you think you see in them, but the galaxy has been dealing with Skrit for centuries. They are pests. They destroy things. That is what they do. That is what they did when they had no choice. When they were hunted and poisoned and feared. Give them safety. Give them a home. They become something else. The officers exchanged looks. The kind of look that said they were dealing with someone who had lost touch with reality. We will be watching, Miss Solway. Keep them contained. They left. Mirren watched their truck disappear down the road. Her jaw tight, a gentle touch on her hand. She looked down. Pip had climbed up and was pressing his head against her palm. His translator chirps were soft, sad, angry. We help. We good. We help. I know you are good, she said. I know. A week later, the government shuttle landed. Mirren was in the garden when it descended. Official markings. Galactic Council insignia. The kind of ship that meant very bad news. A Lority stepped out, followed by 2 human officials in formal suits. One of the humans spoke. Mirren Solway. I am Administrator Huang from the Galactic Council Colonial Affairs Division. The Lority Collective has filed a formal complaint regarding stolen biological property. You have been summoned to appear before the Council. The Lority clicked his mandibles. You have 14 days to surrender the specimens or present your case. Choose wisely, human. Mirren looked back at her barn. 11 pairs of eyes watched from the shadows. Waiting. Trusting. I will see you in 14 days, she said. And I will bring my witnesses. 14 days was not much time to build a case for survival. Mirren spent the first 3 days in panic. She paced her farmhouse while Pip watched from his favorite perch on the kitchen shelf. She made lists and threw them away. She contacted lawyers who laughed at her. She searched for precedents and found none. No one had ever defended Skrit before. No one had ever tried. On the 4th day, Ruth came to visit. Ruth was 73 years old with hands that had worked soil for 5 decades and eyes that had seen more than most. She brought a basket of fresh bread and a bottle of something strong. Heard about your trouble, she said, settling into Mirren's porch chair. Council summons. Lority complaint. Bad business. Mirren slumped beside her. I do not know what to do. They want to take them. Kill them. And I cannot find anyone who cares. Ruth was quiet for a long moment. She watched the barn where the Skrit were visible through the open door, playing some complicated game that involved rolling and stacking objects. You know, Ruth said slowly. I remember when humans were the pests. Mirren looked at her. Before the first contact treaties, before we were recognized as sentient, some species wanted to classify us the same way we classify Skrit. Dangerous vermin. Spread too fast. Consume too much. Better to control the population. What changed? We found allies. Species that saw something in us. Potential. Worth. They spoke for us when we could not speak for ourselves. Ruth handed her the bottle. Maybe those bugs need the same thing. Mirren drank. It burned all the way down. I have nothing, Ruth. No evidence they will accept. No arguments they will hear. Just 11 creatures that everyone wants dead. Then show them something they cannot ignore. The next week became a blur of preparation. Mirren documented everything. She filmed the Skrit-solving puzzles she built from farming equipment. She recorded their communications and ran them through upgraded translation software. She compiled data on their eating habits, their social structures, their remarkable ability to learn and adapt. Pip was her primary subject. He learned faster than the others, understood more. Sometimes he would watch her work and then do something that made her stop and stare. On the 8th day, she left a locked box on the floor containing a treat. 3 latches, different mechanisms. She wanted to see if Pip could figure them out. He studied the box for 10 minutes. Then he went to the barn and came back with Dot and Whisper. Together, the 3 Skrit worked on the box. Pip directed. Dot handled the first latch with her smaller appendages. Whisper made sounds that seemed to guide their timing. They opened it in 4 minutes. Mirren watched the recordings 7 times. This was not trained behavior. This was problem-solving, cooperation, communication. Everything the galaxy said Skrit could not do. You beautiful, brilliant creatures, she whispered. Doss arrived on day 10 and her old partner stood at her door, looking uncomfortable and out of place. His Fenari ears were flat against his head. He would not meet her eyes. Doss, what are you doing here? I heard about the hearing. I wanted to. He stopped. Started again. I was there, Mirren. At Crescentfall. I saw what you saw. That juvenile protecting its nest. I did not say anything then because I was scared. But I cannot stop thinking about it. You could lose your job. Already did. Filed my own report about what happened. How the Lority ordered extermination before proper assessment. How they wanted to burn evidence. He finally looked at her. They did not like that. Mirren pulled him into a hug. Fenari were not physical creatures by nature, but Doss accepted it. I will testify, he said. Whatever you need. The night before the hearing, Mirren sat on her porch with Pip on her shoulder. The other Skrit were sleeping. The stars were bright overhead. Somewhere up there, the Galactic Council waited to decide their fate. I do not know if I can do this, she told Pip. The Lority have lawyers. They have influence. They have centuries of history saying your kind are worthless. What do I have? Pip was quiet for a moment. Then he climbed down from her shoulder and stood on the porch railing in front of her. His antennae focused on her face. The sounds he made were complex. Layered. The translator worked for several seconds before producing words. You have us. You have truth. You have heart. Mirren blinked back tears. When did you learn to say things like that? Always knew. Learned words from you. Learned meaning long ago. Meaning? Mother chose us. When no one else would. That is meaning. She reached out, and Pip pressed his head against her palm. His shell was warm. Alive. Full of possibility that the galaxy refused to see. We might lose, she said might. But might is not certain. You taught us that. The morning came too fast. Mirren loaded her evidence onto data chips. She dressed in the only formal clothes she owned. She carried a transport container for the 10 younger Skrit. And she let Pip take his place on her shoulder where he had been since that first day in Bay 17. Ruth met her at the shuttle port. Give them hell, the old woman said. I will try. No. Ruth gripped her arm. Do not try. Do. Those creatures are counting on you. And so are a lot of us who remember what it felt like to be called vermin. The shuttle lifted off. Through the window, Mirren watched Greenvale shrink below her. Her farm. Her home. Everything she had built in 3 months of hope and desperation. Pip chirped softly. Ready? No, Mirren admitted. But let us go save your family anyway. The Galactic Council chamber was designed to intimidate 37 species. Hundreds of delegates. Curved walls that rose toward a ceiling lost in shadow. Every sound echoed. Every movement was watched by countless eyes of every shape and color. Mirren walked down the central aisle with Pip on her shoulder. The chamber fell silent. Then came the gasps, the whispers, the sounds of alarm from delegates who had never expected to see a Skrit inside these walls. Security officers moved toward her. A Lority voice cut through the chaos. "Remove that creature immediately." Mirren raised her hand. "My witness. Protected under council testimony provisions." The head delegate, an elderly Korvathi with ceremonial markings on her scaled face, gestured for security to stand down. "Miss Salway, you are aware that bringing a Category 7 vermin into this chamber is unprecedented." "Yes, Elder Noseth. That is exactly the point." The Lority delegation occupied the eastern section. High Cultivator Osith was there. So was another Lority with ceremonial robes and mandibles that clicked with barely contained rage. High Speaker Teleth, the voice of the collective. "This hearing will determine the fate of 12 Skrit specimens taken without authorization from Crescentfall Station," Elder Noseth announced. "The Lority collective seeks their return for extermination. The defendant seeks to retain custody. Let us begin." High Speaker Teleth stood first. "The facts are simple. Skrit are vermin. They have caused billions in damages across the galaxy. They breed without control. They destroy everything they touch. Category 7 classification exists because these creatures cannot coexist with civilization. The human took stolen property. She must return it." He displayed images on the chamber's central screen. Destroyed stations. Ruined crops. Infrastructure collapsed by Skrit infestations. The evidence was powerful, undeniable. Furthermore, Teleth continued, the human has endangered her own colony by keeping these creatures. It is only a matter of time before they breed out of control and destroy everything around them. This is not compassion. This is dangerous foolishness. Mirren listened without expression. She had expected this. She had prepared for it. "Miss Salway," Elder Noseth said. "Your response." Mirren stood and walked to the central platform. Pip remained perfectly still on her shoulder. She could feel his small heart beating fast, but his position was calm, confident, trusting. High Speaker Teleth is correct about the damage Skrit have caused. I have seen it myself. I spent 11 years killing them. Hundreds of infestations. Millions of dead Skrit. I was very good at my job. She paused. But in all those years, no one ever asked why Skrit behave the way they do. We just assumed. Vermin are vermin. Kill them and move on. She activated her own display. Data charts. Behavioral recordings. Translation patterns. Skrit breed rapidly because they expect to die. It is a survival mechanism. In hostile environments, they compensate for constant losses by producing more offspring. But in my care, with stable food and safety, my Skrit stopped breeding entirely. They self-regulated because they were not afraid anymore. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Their destruction of infrastructure is not mindless, she continued. They are nest builders. They use available materials. On stations, that means pipes and wires. Give them appropriate materials, and they build without causing damage. She showed recordings of her Skrit constructing elaborate structures from wood and stone on her farm. Beautiful, organized, intentional, and their communication is not animal noise. It is language. She played recordings of Pip's speech patterns alongside translation data. The chamber went quiet. These are not pests. They are people, unrecognized, misunderstood, hunted to the point where violence became their only option, but people nonetheless. High Speaker Teleth scoffed. Trained behavior. Nothing more. Humans have a strange need to see themselves in everything. It does not make insects into citizens. Then test them, Mirren said. Right now? In front of everyone. She pulled a puzzle box from her bag. Complex. Designed for testing Corvid intelligence. 3 separate mechanisms that needed to be solved in sequence. This requires problem-solving abilities beyond any documented Skrit behavior. If Pip fails, I will accept your judgment. But if he succeeds, you must accept that everything you thought you knew about Skrit is wrong. The chamber waited. Elder Noseth nodded slowly. Proceed. Mirren set the box on the platform. Pip climbed down from her shoulder and approached it. He studied the mechanisms with his antennae, walked around it twice, then began working. First mechanism. A sliding panel. Pip found the catch in seconds. Second mechanism. A rotating dial. More complex. He struggled briefly, then adjusted his approach and cracked it. Third mechanism. A combination of both. Pip paused. His antennae twitched. Then he made a sound that the translator caught clearly. Tricky. but learned similar. Mother's tools that he solved it in 40 seconds total. The box opened. Pip chirped with satisfaction and looked up at Mirren, waiting for approval. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted. Some in alarm, some in amazement. The Lority protested loudly, claiming manipulation and deception. But Elder Nasitha's voice cut through everything. Silence. The chamber obeyed. The old Korvathi looked at Pip for a long moment. Then at Mirren. You have demonstrated something remarkable, Miss Solway. But one question remains. Even if they can think, what value do they provide? Why should they live? Mirren had expected this question too. You are asking me to justify their existence with usefulness, she said slowly. But we do not ask that of children. We do not ask that of the elderly. We do not ask that of anyone we consider people. The question is not what they can do for us. The question is what kind of galaxy we want to live in. She looked around at the assembled delegates. One where life only matters if it is profitable, or one where we protect those who cannot protect themselves. Silence. Then a soft clicking sound from somewhere in the chamber. Pip's antennae went rigid. Warning. Strangers. Many. Mirren turned toward the sound. From a service corridor, shapes began to emerge. Small. Six-legged. Dark shells reflecting the chamber lights. Skrit. Hundreds of them. Thousands. The wild ones had found her. Chaos consumed the chamber. Delegates fled toward exits. Security officers deployed weapons. Emergency alarms screamed through the corridors. The Lority delegation shouted for immediate extermination protocols. Gas them. Gas the entire section. But the wild Skrit were not attacking. Mirren saw it clearly even as panic blinded everyone else. The swarm moved with purpose, flowing through the chamber in organized streams. They avoided delegates, circled around security, moved toward a single point. Pip leaped from the platform and ran toward the swarm. Mirren lunged after him, but stopped when she saw what happened next. The wild Skrit parted around Pip like water around a stone. He walked through their ranks untouched. He reached the front of the swarm and turned to face them. His antennae danced. Complex patterns. Rapid signals. The language of his species, the swarm responded. Thousands of voices clicking in unison. The sound was overwhelming. Terrifying. Beautiful. Then silence. Pip turned back toward Mirren. He chirped once. Come. Safe. They listened. She walked forward on shaking legs. Every instinct screamed danger. Thousands of Skrit surrounded her. Wild ones. The kind that destroyed stations. The kind she had killed by the millions. They watched her pass through their ranks without moving. At the center of the swarm waited a single Skrit larger than any she had ever seen. Ancient. Scarred. One antenna was missing. Half her shell was damaged by old wounds. But her eyes were sharp. Aware. Intelligent beyond anything Mirren had imagined. The old female studied her for a long moment. Then made a series of sounds. The translator struggled. These patterns were different from Pip's. Older. More complex. But slowly, meaning emerged. You. Human. Voice spoke of you. Said you do not kill. Said you protect. Said you are different. Mirren glanced at Pip. Voice. Pip ducked his head. Been calling. Since we left station. Telling others. Telling everyone. About you. The old female continued. Long time we run. Long time we hide. Long time we die. Everywhere we go, same. Death. Poison. Fire. No home. No safe. No hope. She stepped closer to Mirren. Her damaged antennae brushed against Mirren's hand. You gave hope. Small ones tell us. Small ones say human mother loves them. Human mother fights for them. We came to see. To know. Truth or lied up. Mirren's throat tightened. It is true. I will protect them. I will protect all of you if I can. The old female was still for a long moment. Then, slowly, she lowered her head. Her entire massive body pressed down toward the floor. Submission. Trust. Around them, the swarm did the same. Thousands of Skrit lowering themselves before a single human, offering something their species had never offered anyone before. Faith. Elder Nasitha's voice cut through the silence. Miss Solway. What is happening? Mirren turned. The Korvathi delegate had not fled. She stood on her platform, watching with ancient eyes that had seen centuries of galactic politics. They came looking for hope, Mirren said. They found it. They are wild vermin. They infest stations. They destroy civilizations. They are refugees. Homeless. Hunted everywhere they go. They adapted to survive in a galaxy that wanted them dead. But given a chance, given safety, they can be something else. She looked at the massive swarm surrounding her. They want to be something else. High Speaker Teleth pushed forward. This is madness. The human has clearly formed some unnatural bond with these pests. She cannot speak for them. She is not. The old Skrit female rose and made a sound so sharp that Teleth stumbled backward. She speaks for us. She is mother of our future. What she says, we follow. The translation filled the chamber. Clear. Unmistakable. Elder Noseth turned to the other delegates. Those who remained. I call for an immediate vote. The status of Skrit species. Recognizing demonstrated intelligence and peaceful behavior. Protected status consideration. Votes came in rapidly. The Fenari delegate spoke first. Intelligence should be studied, not exterminated. We vote in favor of protection. A Korvathi elder raised her hand. We were vermin once. To species stronger than us. We remember. Protection. The human delegation cast their vote without hesitation. This is what we do. We find family in strange places. Protection. Species after species voted. Not unanimous. The Lority abstained with visible fury. A few others followed their lead. But the majority was clear. The motion carries, Elder Noseth announced. Skrit are granted provisional protected status. They will be studied. Integration programs will be developed. And Miran Salwe is appointed as official liaison between the Skrit species and the Galactic Council. 6 months later, Greenvale had changed. Miran's farm had expanded into a colony. Purpose-built structures housed the Skrit who had chosen to settle there. Thousands of them. Living alongside humans who had once feared them, they worked the fields together. Skrit tunneling aerated the soil. Their waste became fertilizer. Their nimble appendages harvested crops that human hands could not reach. They were not servants. They were partners, neighbors, friends. Ruth visited on a sunny afternoon, her grandchildren in tow. The kids played with young Skrit in the garden, laughing as the creatures mimicked their movements and taught them games from their own culture. Never thought I would see this day, Ruth said, settling into her usual chair. We called them pests. Miran watched Pip, now fully grown with brilliant blue markings, teaching a juvenile how to open a door latch. The young Skrit struggled. Failed. Tried again. Pip encouraged with soft chirps. Everything alive wants to keep living, Miran said. That is not a crime. It is a beginning. The juvenile finally succeeded. The door swung open. Sunlight poured through. The Skrit chirped in celebration. Their translator voices filled the air with a single word, spoken in chorus. Home. Pip climbed onto Miran's shoulder and pressed his head against her cheek. Thank you. Mother. Thank you. She reached up and stroked his shell. Warm. Alive. Family. You are welcome, she whispered. Always. Somewhere in the galaxy, on stations and colonies and ships, other Skrit were learning about Greenvale. About the human who chose adoption instead of extermination. About hope, and slowly, one world at a time, they were coming home.